Today on the Locked On Blues podcast, the St. Louis Blues offense is red hot. One of the best offenses in franchise history in terms of 20 goal scorers. I'm going to be answering the question, or at least trying to answer the question, is that enough to help this team compete for a Stanley Cup? How have dominant offenses with tons and tons of 20 goal scorers fared in the past? We'll be answering that question. And then I'm also going to be talking about Colton Parayko and his emergence in the second half of this season as he has become, once again, one of the Blues' best defensemen after an underwhelming start to the year. And then I'm going to be closing things out, previewing tonight's matchup between the St. Louis Blues and Seattle Kraken. Again, chances are you guys are listening to this, watching this after that game, so I'm not going to be going too in-depth, but lots to cover on today's solo episode. Make sure you stay tuned.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Locked On Blues podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and your number one source for daily Blues content. I'm your host, Josh Hyman. I'll be taking you guys on a solo episode today. First and foremost, wanted to thank everyone out there who makes Locked On Blues your first listen, because we are free and available on all podcast platforms. So thanks for making us part of your daily routine. Now, a couple things to cover on today's episode. In the first segment, I'm going to be talking about the red-hot offense of the St. Louis Blues. Tommy and I talked about it a lot on the most recent episode, all the 20 goal scorers and stuff like that. So Jeremy Rutherford put out a really great article on The Athletic discussing previous teams that have had multiple 20 goal scorers and how they fared in the playoffs and stuff. So I'm going to be talking about that and giving my thoughts on whether or not, having a bunch of guys that can score a lot of goals is enough to carry your team to a Stanley Cup. And then in the second segment, I'm going to be talking about Colton Parayko and the defense as a whole, as Parayko has kind of sneakily had a spectacular turnaround in the second half of this season and has started to reestablish himself as an elite number one defenseman for the Blues. And then in the third segment, I'm going to spend a few minutes previewing tonight's matchup between the St. Louis Blues and Seattle Kraken. Again, like I said before the intro, chances are you guys are listening to this, watching this after the game. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that, just so it's not completely irrelevant by the time some of you are listening to it. But first and foremost, I want to talk about the Blues offense. Now, if you listen to yesterday's episode, you listen to the last episode, you follow the Blues on Twitter, anything, all that anyone has been able to talk about is the fact that the Blues have 7 20 goal scorers, which is the best total that they have had since the 1984-1985 season. And I somewhat cheekily, somewhat sarcastically titled the last episode on YouTube, "Is this the best St. Louis Blues offense of all time?" Mostly just opening up the question, because they hadn't done something like that since 1984, 1985. Come to read this Jeremy Rutherford article to find out the fact that the Blues have the record for most 20 goal scorers in a season with 10 back in 1980, 1981. That team did not win a Stanley Cup, obviously. But still, I guess Jeremy Rutherford saw the episode title on YouTube and was like, no. So I'd like to formally apologize for that somewhat clickbait title. I mean, you could definitely make the argument that this is the best offense the Blues have had in a very long time. It's statistically one of the best offenses they've had in the last 40 years. Best offense in franchise history. Maybe that's a little bit more of a debate that I might have a hard time convincing people of. But still, the numbers are there. The fact that the Blues have like the most 20 goal scorers since 1984, 1985 is nothing to sneeze at. Now, also in this Athletic article, Jeremy Rutherford pointed out the 12 other teams besides the St. Louis Blues this year. So only 12 teams have done it since 2005, 2006. Only 12 teams have made the playoffs and also had 7 plus 20 goal scorers on their roster. Those teams are the Toronto Maple Leafs, Washington Capitals, Columbus Blue Jackets, Philadelphia Flyers, San Jose Sharks, Philadelphia Flyers again, Washington Capitals again, Boston Bruins, Philadelphia Flyers, Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings, and the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, of those 12 teams, 3 of them lost in the first round, 1 of them lost in the second round, and 1 of them, only 1 of them, won the Stanley Cup, and that was the Carolina Hurricanes in 2005, 2006. So the last time that a team with 7 plus 20 goal scorers won the Stanley Cup was 2005, 2006. Obviously, it doesn't happen a lot, very small sample size, including the Blues. There are only 13 teams that have done it. I think the Florida Panthers, I want to say, or maybe it's there's another team out there also with 7 goal scorers, 720 goal scorers, or 620 goal scorers, I think, that is going to join that club. So doesn't indicate playoff success on its own. Obviously, it certainly helps, but like I said, of those 12 previous teams, only one of them went on to win the Stanley Cup, and that Carolina Hurricanes team was known for their strong defense and goaltending, as well as having 720 goal scorers. So that begs the question: is the offensive depth of the St. Louis Blues enough to win them a Stanley Cup? And I'm going to say no, not on its own. But I do think that the defense has been playing a lot better as of late. Specifically with Colton Parayko, as I'm going to get into in this second segment. I don't think the offense alone is enough to carry a team to a Stanley Cup, because that's just not how hockey works. You can score a ton of goals, but come playoff time, the game's going to get tighter. You're gonna be trying to win games 2-1, 1-0, 3-2, rather than 6-5, 6-4, like we've seen the Blues do in the past. So yeah, having a lot of 20 goal scorers is going to help you score in those games, but you also got to keep the puck out of your own net. So I do think the offense, being the Blues' strongest aspect of their game, is going to help them a lot. I think the fact that they have maybe the best depth scoring in the NHL is going to help them a lot. And it takes a lot of pressure off of the defense and goaltending. Even in the playoffs, the defense and goaltending just need to play, at an average or slightly above average level. Basically, they need to give the offense a chance to be in the game. And when you have an offense that good, there's a decent chance that you can win some hockey games. So it's just going to be a matter of the defense isn't going to have to win games on their own, over the course of a 7-game series. The goaltending might have to do it once or twice, but if the Blues can, just do just enough to allow 1-2 goals in a lot of these playoff games, then there's a good chance that the offense will get going and be able to win you a lot of games if you're playing the necessary defense and if you have the necessary goaltending. But as we've seen in the past, you can't just rely on offense alone. Jeremy Rutherford also took it back to 1980-81 season, which was the year that the Blues, I believe, had that season with 10 players with 20 goals each. 10 out of 105 teams with at least 720 goal scorers have won the Stanley Cup. So that's less than 10%. So it is not at all an indication of playoff success, Stanley Cup success, but it certainly helps, So undecided on whether or not I think it'll be something that'll push the Blues to the Stanley Cup. I don't think it's enough on its own, and those numbers prove that it's not going to be enough on its own, but it certainly takes a lot of pressure off of the defense and goaltending to have an offense that good. And if the offense continues to roll, then who knows, if Husso or Binnington plays above average for the majority of the playoffs and the defense plays average, yeah, that could be enough. But obviously that's a big ask, and that comes with the defense, and that's something that the Blues have struggled with all season, is their defense. So in the second segment, I'm going to be talking about that defense, and specifically one guy in particular, Colton Parayko, and how he's kind of quietly turned the season around and might be playing the best hockey that he has played since the Stanley Cup run, where he was so dominant. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about one of our brand new sponsors, and that is HelloFresh. You can get farm fresh seasonal produce and easy to make recipes delivered to your door every single week. It's all about convenience with HelloFresh. Not only do the ingredients come pre-portioned so you're not overbuying and wasting food, but it's easier than ever to get filling meals on the table in a snap with options like the family-friendly or quick and easy recipes. Now, I'm in college. I talk about this a lot. I know I have no time to make meals. So easy to just get home and throw a pot of ramen on. I don't want to go to the grocery store and buy ingredients, spend all that time, but I've used meal services in the past, and HelloFresh is great. It makes it so easy and convenient. Get home from class within 30 minutes. I got a restaurant quality meal sitting in front of me. It's great. So go to HelloFresh.com/LockedOn16 and use code LockedOn16 for up to, get this, 16 free meals plus 3 free gifts. So go to HelloFresh.com/LockedOn16. Use code LockedOn16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Make sure you're checking out HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And I'll be right back with the second half of today's episode. All right, so got a fun stat for you guys regarding the defense. Now, I've been reading a lot of advanced stats lately and crazy stuff like that, but this isn't too out there. So, Colton Parayko, big controversial defenseman for the St. Louis Blues. We've been very critical of him this season on this podcast, and the fans in general have been pretty critical of him as a whole. However, since February 1st, Colton Parayko leads the entire NHL in even strength goal differential, which is incredibly impressive considering the fact that the Blues have kind of been not so great since February 1st. They've lost a lot of games. They've given up a lot of goals since February 1st. Yet Colton Parayko still leads the NHL in goal differential. That's pretty impressive. And we've been very critical of him on this podcast. And I think with that, you gotta, have the respect be as loud as the hate was. And for that, I gotta take this second segment and talk about Colton Parayko and talk about this defense. It's definitely been pretty relevant ever since Nick Leddy has joined the team. That Colton Parayko seems like he's having a bit of an easier time with his play and stuff like that. But it's kind of been creeping up, like I said, since that February 1st. He's been playing better hockey. I don't know if it's a matter of, finally shaking off that back injury, getting comfortable with the first pairing, whatever, what have you. He's been playing better hockey, and that's a big part of why this defense has gone from poor to maybe average. And if you have Colton Parayko playing at the peak of his game, like the Colton Parayko that we saw in the Cup run, when he was, along with Alex Pietrangelo, creating like two of the most dominant, individual defensemen in the playoffs that year. I love to bring up the stat that I don't remember exactly what it was, but between Colton Parayko and Alex Pietrangelo, the two of them were out there for 59 minutes and 53 seconds in Game 7 or something like that. So there were only 7 seconds of game time where one of Colton Parayko or Alex Pietrangelo was not on the ice. Again, it's been forever since I've seen the actual stats, so I don't know if that's completely accurate, but Colton Parayko was that guy in the playoff series. There was talks of Colton Parayko being the Conn Smythe winner. He was unbelievable in that playoff run paired up with Jay Bouwmeester. It really felt like the Blues had a future top 5 defenseman in the NHL on their team. And then after that, back injuries, lack of aggressiveness, lack of success for the team, Colton Parayko kind of fell out of favor a little bit with Blues fans, myself included. I always felt like he was capable of more than he was producing. He never really took advantage of that physicality as much as I thought he could have with that big size, that long reach. And even this season, there have definitely been times where Parayko's played a little soft and, got beat on easy chances and really just played a little bit smaller than he is. I think I had a tweet which was pretty pretty scalding, but it was after Colton Parayko gave up a pretty easy goal. I said Colton Parayko plays like he's Torrey Krug's height, and Torrey Krug plays like he's Colton Parayko's height. And obviously that's the generalization. I don't think Colton Parayko plays like he's 5'9" all the time, but I do think that there have been times in the past where he really hasn't taken advantage of what makes him so dominant as a defenseman. We saw that a lot in the Cup run. He would just use his size to take off pretty much half of the ice and make it impossible for opponents to get any passes through, any shots through, because you got 6'6" Colton Parayko with his 12-foot long hockey stick just sweeping the ice and making it impossible. And it felt like he didn't go to that as much as he could have, this season, last season, whatever, what have you. Now all of a sudden it feels like he's getting back to that game. He's playing a little bit more physical, but most importantly, he's playing more responsibly. He's not getting beat on rushes as much anymore. He's not, making the wrong read, making a turnover, getting caught out of position. I always say the best games for defensemen that aren't named Cale Makar or Roman Josi are games where you don't notice them, unless you're putting up multiple points or scoring goals. If you're playing a good defensive game as a defenseman, you're not getting noticed. And Colton Parayko's name has not come up in a while on this podcast. And all of a sudden seeing that stat from Jeremy Rutherford just proves it perfectly. He's been so reliable, and amidst a bit of a rocky stretch for the St. Louis Blues, he is still able to lead the league in even strength goal differential since February 1st. So very, very impressive there. And his play will be very important tonight as the St. Louis Blues take on the Seattle Kraken. So in the third segment, I'm going to be breaking down that game, previewing it, and giving my pick for Locked On Player of the Game. But first, I want to tell you guys about another new sponsor, and that is Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of a nice $200 pair of sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' incredible protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happens. Just give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. They have spectacular protection programs. You lose them, you break them, doesn't matter. Use their protection program, you got a brand new pair coming your way. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, by the way, head to shadyrays.com, use code LOCKED ON, and you'll get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKED ON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. They are backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Check them out, shadyrays.com. You won't regret it. And now, had a couple new sponsors. Got to bring it back to one of the OGs, Built Bar. Built Bars are so delicious. You're like me, you love a good candy bar. I know all the time I'll be like on the way to class and I'll try to justify eating a Snickers bar, and then I'll be sitting in class feeling all crappy and my stomach's all gurgly because, I just downed a candy bar for breakfast. The thing is, if you want a good candy bar that's healthy for you, good for you, you got to check out Built Bar. Built Bars are the first ever protein infused, fully 100% covered in chocolate protein bar. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, like I said, including Built Puffs, which are protein-infused marshmallows. Now, like I was mentioning, a lot of good candy bars, they're tasty, but the calorie count and all that stuff is through the roof. Most Built Bars contain only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein, compared to a candy bar, which, like I said, has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. They have so many delicious flavors, and they're adding new ones all the time. First priority at Built Bar is always making it taste good, and then they figure out how to make it healthy. And they pull it off every single time. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, so final segment of today's episode. The Blues do play the Seattle Kraken here in just a few hours. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep this one brief because, like I said, chances are it might be a little bit out of date when a lot of you guys are listening to this. But right off the bat, the Blues and the Kraken have played twice this season. Blues have beat them both times. They played January 13th. The Blues won 2-1, and then they played January 21st in Seattle, and the Blues won 5-0. This time, the Kraken are coming to St. Louis, to the Enterprise Center, to take on the St. Louis Blues. I don't believe Jaden Schwartz is playing, which is unfortunate. Would like to see him get his return, but that will have to wait. I could be wrong, though, so fingers crossed. Billy Husso is getting the start for the St. Louis Blues once again. He's the starter from here on out. I think Grubauer is getting the start for the Seattle Kraken. I don't know. I mean, you can break this down any way you want. The Kraken are bad. 29th in power play percentage, 28th in penalty kill percentage, 27th in faceoff percentage, 29th in goals per game, and 25th in goals allowed per game. They are bad across the board. They are a bad hockey team. And seemingly like the one bad team that the Blues managed to not play down to when they were, having that stretch of notoriously, losing to teams like Arizona or Montreal. They managed to still beat Seattle and beat them handedly. My expectations are very, very high for tonight's game. I mean, they had their way with the Arizona Coyotes on Monday night. And, similar experience tonight. A team that's kind of depleted with injuries, a team that's been playing a lot of AHLers, a team that just has not been good all season anywhere. Offense, defense, goaltending, it's all been bad. Should be a walk in the park for the Blues. Obviously, no game is that simple. It's the NHL. Any team could win any game. Doesn't matter if it's the 65-win Tampa Bay Lightning versus the 8-win Washington Capitals back when they had an expansion team. You match those two teams up enough times, it'll go both ways. You have to come out with consistent effort. You can't play arrogant. We've been talking about that so much, is the arrogance of the St. Louis Blues, the self-admitted arrogance of the St. Louis Blues that they talked about after that loss to the Philadelphia Flyers a week or so ago. They were talking about how they were playing arrogant. And Tommy and I talked about it a lot on yesterday's episode, how they played a little arrogant against the Arizona Coyotes, but you can play a little arrogant when you're playing with confidence and you're playing with motivation. You can't just come out and treat it like it's an all-star game where you're just going to go up and down the ice, not play any defense and score a ton of goals. Yeah, the Blues can win games that way. The Blues can win games just by outscoring their opponent and not putting in any effort on defense. We've seen that before this season, but especially now as we reach the end of this season and the playoffs, you can't have that be the only area where you're putting in a 100% effort. The Blues are going to put in 100% effort on the offensive end any given night, pretty much. Every guy, there's 7 guys on the team with 20 goals. There's a lot of players that love scoring goals for the St. Louis Blues. That's clear. So that effort isn't going to be lacking. It's just about matching that effort in the defensive department. And I mean, the goaltending department, you can't really blame on effort, but that comes with the defense and that comes sort of with the offense as well. Ville Husso has been far from a problem for the St. Louis Blues this season. I'm not worried about that. It's all about the defense, and I talked a lot in the second segment about how Colton Parayko and his play has drastically improved. And something that comes with that is when you have a guy like Colton Parayko playing as well as he has been in the last month or two, it allows the rest of the defense to kind of have a bit of weight taken off them. Because now all of a sudden it goes from sort of like a 6-man effort like it was before with no true number one guy to, oh, shoot, Colton Parayko stepping up. We got a number one defenseman. We got a guy that can go out there and play 27, 28 minutes a night. Then every other defensive pairing has a little bit easier of a job because that Colton Parayko is going out there against the first line every single time that he's out there. He's shutting down opponents. So could have a ripple effect. Same thing with the Nick Leddy acquisition. Ripple effect. The defense as a whole can just have an easier time when guys like Colton Parayko are playing well. That being said, Colton Parayko is my pick for Locked On Player of the Game for all the reasons I discussed in the second segment and most recently, in this segment. If he continues to be that dominant player, that dominant defenseman that we've seen out of him in that cup run and a little bit here and there over the past few weeks, then this defense might be turning things around. I know Tommy and I basically were under the assumption that the defense was what it was and that it wasn't going to improve. But now all of a sudden, Colton Parayko is kind of tapping into some of his former ways, and we're seeing flashes. We're seeing flashes of what he used to be in that one cup run. And if he can bring that intensity and bring that ability, not only tonight, but for the rest of the season, this team can make some noise. So I'm looking forward to seeing him continue that play tonight. And that's why, like I said, he's my locked on player of the game. If he can lead the defense, then the Blues should have an easy time with the Seattle Kraken. Ville Husso should have an easy time with the Seattle Kraken. Should be a fun one. But that being said, that is all the time I have for you guys today. So thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Locked On Blues, quickly growing in subscribers there. It's been a lot of fun doing that. We're interacting with you guys in the comments and all that stuff. It's been great. Leave a comment, like I said there. Follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at Locked On Blues. The links to those should be in the YouTube description. So if you're watching us there, just head down to the description. You can find our Facebook group as well. Lots of fun stuff there. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. Follow Tommy on at TWelcher15. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, let's go Blues.